I know. I'm working on it.
Alright, got some of this dash sanded. Got the seam line sanded down that runs across the dash here. And you see there's some filler work that needs to be right here and here. A couple spots here. So that's normal when you have a seam line. You're always going to have some little bit of voids in there because of the seam line that goes through it. And same with this bumper. Seam line goes through here. So I'm going to have to put a skim coat of filler where that seam line was to get it perfect. Okay. So yeah, that's the first blocking or the first sanding, and then I still got, you could see I didn't get everywhere. I still got to get in all these places I couldn't reach right here by hand, and I got to sand this down right here. But that's where I'm at. I'm gonna get back to work now. Just wanted to make some take some videos in between the sanding. All right, so this dash, because the mold line goes through here, you can see it's a little bit high here. So I gotta go and take a sanding block and sand that high spot down from the mold line that runs through the dash here. And so a mold line usually just creates like a, like a high spot that runs through your part. And you always gotta sand that down. So right here, it just takes you gotta take a little. It takes a little bit more time to get this perfect. And that gel coat could be quite hard. So you just gotta go at it and make it look pretty. So when you primer this, it'll look nice. Alright, so after you smooth that out and you get it looking ready for primer, here, the voice box, this doesn't have to be perfect because this has got to be cut out here. And depending on what voice box you got for this part here, you're either going to cut it out or you're going to cut out holes for your voice box, depending on what style you got. There's a template one that comes on here, so if you got like the Jupiter box, you probably just make a big hole here and your templates will go over it. So it doesn't really matter if there's imperfections here. I do try to clean it up anyway, but all this is going to be cut out, so this is not really that important. You want to have this nice and pretty here. You will see this, and you'll see up here. So any voids, any low spots or pinholes or anything you want to fill in. Okay, so this is where you're going to be sitting. You're going to see this part all the time. So this is where you want everything to look the most prettiest on your dash. Again, right here, you're not going to see all this, but I'll probably put some filler in here anyway. There's a little bit of a, that's from my mold. My mold's starting to get old, so it's got a little imperfection right here in this spot, so I'll just put some filler over that. Anyways, this is just for holding on to your pod. You're going to make a hole here and a hole here. And you can see it looks kind of rough right now, but that's the way it always is when you're sanding parts. It's always going to look like, It's always going to look kind of like, oh, what am I doing, Same with this bumpers. Once you start sanding this gel coat off, the part looks very dull. Okay? But that's normal. Especially when you're using a black gel coat and black primer. So don't worry about that. And I like to make these videos, I could just fix these parts up and just not show you any of the Aldo mold and just show you a finished part, just go from that and just go to a finished part and just be like, this is my parts. But then, I wouldn't be teaching you guys anything. I would just be pretty much showcasing my parts, finished. I think it's important that you see the work that goes into these parts, because I'm sure a lot of you guys don't know, that buy parts, how much work it is to get fiberglass to look, really nice. And these are custom handmade parts, so it's not like it's made and it comes out perfect. So yeah, it's always going to need some work and repairs. And the good thing about fiberglass is it's repairable. I mean, you can literally crack this in half and put it back together if you wanted to. It's just really good stuff, fiberglass. To think back in the day before fiberglass, it was just wood boats and stuff. yeah, once the wood boat gets destroyed, you really can't fix it. But fiberglass, you get a hole in it, and it's a boat. You know, you can go repair that hole, so the boat won't sink. Anyways, yeah. So you can see here, I'm making this prettier, and I haven't started any filler work on this yet. Like, there's a little bit of a crinkle here that I started digging out, and you got to get all that fine gel coat sanded down, or else that filler will not stick to any imperfections. So you really got to make sure you do this right, because it can delaminate your filler work. Okay, I've been working on this stuff over a decade now, longer than that, probably 15 years. I've been making parts and doing the work, and it's just, you learn a lot along the way. It's just one of those things, you know, you could repair something the wrong way and you could do it the right way. Most people, if you don't know how to do it the right way, you'll just do the repair thinking you've done it right. You know, a lot of people don't even know that you're supposed to sand down the gel coat before you even shoot your primer. I can imagine how many Knight Rider guys ordered a bumper and just went over the gel coat with paint or primer. I'm sure that's happened because they thought it looked perfect, and maybe they just fixed like the seam line and left everything without sanding. I mean, that's if I go back to 2002 when I first started making my first replica, yeah, that was 20 years ago. Man, I'm getting old. Yeah, I didn't know much about body work. You know, I was like 21 at the time. I had to learn all this stuff. So, but in a sense, if you're buying off me and you buy these parts, I'm going to finish it for you. A lot of this stuff that I'm teaching on my channel or talking about, it's really, well, it will help you if you ever got any damage on the part in the future to fix it, and you'll be able to do it yourself if you choose to do that yourself. Alright, so that's good now. You can't see any shiny in there. So that filler will stick. Okay. And same thing here. You want to have all these little imperfections there. You want to have it sanded so your filler will stick in there. Because if you don't, you put your filler on there and you go to sand it, and it'll just sand right off. It won't adhere to that. So like right here, we got a low spot from where the mold line was. So I'm just gonna sand in there, get all that gel coat off. So when I put my filler in there, it'll be nice and adhere nicely. Yeah, I can get it nice and smooth without any delamination. Okay. And like I said, these dashes, they take me, I'd say 3 times the time, 3 times longer than the bumpers. Bumpers are nice and flat. There's really not too many, like right here is a little curve that you got to go in here and inside here. But other than that, everything's pretty flat. You know, you got a curve here that you got to sand, but you know, it's pretty straightforward how to do this sanding work on here. But this dash, it's, you know, you got curves under here. Okay, you got curves in here. Curve under here, curves all up in here. You got to sand all up in here by hand. Can't use a machine on this. All this has to be done by hand. Okay, all this, and all that, all up in here, all these grooves here. Okay, so this takes way more time doing your body work, and you want to take your time. You don't want to rush it. Because in the end, when you primer it, if you rush it, you're going to see all kinds of, you know, it's not going to look good. You can see imperfections still. You're going to be like, oh man, missed this spot, missed that spot. So I like to take my time. I usually spend about 5 hours, 5-6 hours on the dash. Well, actually, dash sometimes up to 10 hours, depending. Just on body work. Because I like to get it perfect or really, really good. And That said, you're gonna get your dash, and you're gonna end up hacking this all up for your voice box, hacking this up most of the time, hacking up in here, cutting out here, hacking this all up, hacking. This is all gonna get hacked up. But the main thing that I want solid is, I want the shelf to look good. I want all this to look good up in here. I want this all looking nice. So all you have to do after you do all your hacking for your electronics and TVs and voice box and buttons, that all you have to do is maybe do a light filler of if you cut it wrong or something, and just maybe primer those few. Well, actually, you won't even need a primer because everything's gonna be cut out. So all you would really need to do is just like fix any imperfections that you have from, like, if you cut out the voice box wrong or whatever, or because sometimes you cut out a button here. But they made it so simple nowadays. Like these buttons here, I used to cut them out individually. Now they have like metal bezels that can go in there, or aluminum bezels, and they fit right in there. You can literally just cut this out and just put your bezel in from behind. But I like things sturdy. I still, even to this day, I like to cut them out individually. I don't like to use those bezels. And if I do use the bezel, it'll be still, I'll cut out the button. I'll literally put the bezel over it and use it as a template. So if I use the template, I can still cut out the holes where it's at. I don't like to weaken the dash. I like to keep it as solid as I can. I don't like to just cut out big holes. Like if I get a voice box, I'll cut it out just where the voice box is. That way, most of the dash is still intact. But you got some guys that, I don't know if they don't know what they're doing or it's their first project. They'll come in here and they'll just cut this whole thing out and just take it out and just, it's up to you. You can do whatever you want. It's your dash, but I just like to do things a little bit more differently, I guess. I guess everybody's doing their own thing when it comes to this project. All right, well, I'm gonna get back to sanding, get this thing looking pretty. Alright, there's the speaker openings. They're roughly cut out. If you need to, you could always cut that out some more if you have a bigger speaker or whatnot. But that's pretty much it for the speakers. Alright, so this dash is a dash on the original dash pad look. So this part here looks like the original dash pad to the Firebird. And then you could see there's a little ledge here, a lip. And that's where the Knight Rider dash sits. But it's actually all one unit, okay? There's actually no separation. People were making, or actually taking this and cutting it off and putting it on the original pad. I don't like to do that because then it becomes two pieces and two pieces can separate. Doing it like this, you can mount this to your defroster screws on the original location, and that supports this part here, which supports the whole dash and keeps it from having ever any issues if you were to have a two-part or a dash that sits on top of the original pad. I don't care for that look. I'm sure you can get it where it's secure, but I just prefer to do it this way, to have a dash that has the look of it sitting on the dash pad. And a lot of the times in the show, you don't even see the original dash pad. It'll just be like a piece of plywood that sits on top of here that's covered up with some vinyl, black vinyl, and then this will be on top of that. And sometimes it's just as simple as that. You can imagine how much those dashes wobbled when they were driving. Alright, so back to sanding. It's starting to look a little bit better. So hopefully Monday, if I'm able to get this done tomorrow, all the filler work, hopefully on Monday I'll be able to primer. Maybe on Tuesday, but I'm going to shoot for Monday. So again, that's it for tonight. Hopefully tomorrow, get these things smooth and ready for primer.